The real reason you hate loud chewing is because your brain is actively trying to protect you from being poisoned. Tonight, when you sit down for dinner, you might hear a sound that makes your blood boil. It is the wet, rhythmic, unmistakable sound of someone chewing their food with their mouth wide open. A wave of pure, irrational fury washes over you. You want to cover your ears, or scream, or slam your hand down on the table. But the real answer is far stranger. Your intense hatred of that sound is not a personality quirk, and it is not just bad manners. It is an ancient, hardwired biological security system that has been keeping your ancestors alive for over 2 million years. Your brain is a hyper-focused pattern recognition machine. It spends every single second of your life scanning your environment for signs of danger. Most of the time, it ignores background noises like traffic or the hum of a refrigerator. But the moment it hears the sound of crunching, squelching, and smacking lips, a specialized network of neurons lights up like a Christmas tree. This is not the part of your brain that processes casual logic. This is the amygdala, your emotional alarm system. Why does a simple sound trigger the exact same brain region that handles a physical attack? To understand the fury, you have to look at the ancestral dinner table. For the vast majority of human history, hunting and foraging for food was a high-stakes gamble. Our ancestors did not have grocery stores with expiration dates or safety seals. Every piece of raw meat, every wild berry, and every root dug out of the dirt was a potential biological weapon. If an animal was diseased, or if a plant was packed with toxic alkaloids, eating it meant agonizing sickness or immediate death. Survival depended on extreme caution, and nature developed a very specific auditory warning system to signal when something was deeply wrong with the food supply. When a mammal eats something that is perfectly safe and crisp, the sound is predictable and clean. But when an animal or an ancestral human consumed meat that was rotting, slimy, or infested with parasites, the structural integrity of the food changed completely. The sound became wet, sloppy, loose, and excessively loud. In the quiet of the prehistoric wilderness, that specific wet squelch was a loud audio cue. It signaled that the food being consumed was highly unstable, decayed, or poisonous. If you sat next to someone making that sound, your brain needed to react instantly to prevent you from sharing that meal. This deep evolutionary link was mapped extensively by Dr. Sukhbinder Kumar at Newcastle University. Using advanced brain imaging, his team discovered that in people who experience intense rage from chewing sounds, a condition known as misophonia, there is a hyper-connected pathway between the auditory cortex and the motor control areas that move the face and throat. When you hear that wet smacking sound, your brain doesn't just hear a noise. It mirrors the action. It simulates the physical act of consuming that wet, potentially hazardous material, triggering a profound, visceral wave of disgust designed to make you flee or fight. Our ancestors who ignored the wet, sloppy chewing sounds were not bothered by them. They sat peacefully next to companions eating spoiled, bacteria-ridden meat. They shared the food, contracted the pathogens, and died out before passing on their genes. But the anxious, easily annoyed ancestors survived. The individuals who felt a sudden surge of adrenaline and irritation at the sound of wet chewing immediately distanced themselves from the source. They refused to eat the tainted food. Their hypersensitivity saved their lives, and they passed that exact hyper-reactive neural pathway directly down to you. But human history added another layer to this evolutionary trap. As our ancestors transitioned from solitary foragers into highly organized tribes, food sharing became the ultimate social contract. Eating together was a sacred ritual that bound the group together. In a tight-knit tribe of hunter-gatherers, survival depended entirely on social harmony and predictability. Everyone was expected to conform to the unwritten rules of the group to maintain peace. Deviation from the norm was seen as a threat to the collective stability, When someone in the tribe began eating with excessive noise, it signaled a complete breakdown of self-control. In the wild, a creature that eats loudly and aggressively is a creature driven entirely by primal, uninhibited greed. It is an animalistic behavior that ignores the presence of others. For a tribal human, watching a companion revert to this animalistic state triggered a deep subconscious alarm. It meant that this individual was unpredictable, undisciplined, and potentially dangerous to the social order of the group. This social friction was put to the test in a famous psychological study led by Dr. Arjan Schroeder at the University of Amsterdam. Researchers found that the rage triggered by chewing noises is heavily dependent on context and social proximity. You rarely feel intense rage when a dog crunches loudly on a bone or when a wild animal eats in nature. Your brain accepts that as natural behavior, but the exact same sound coming from a human being sitting right next to you triggers an immediate, aggressive cognitive dissonance. Your modern brain expects the human across from you to act like a civilized member of your modern tribe. When they open their mouth and let out a wet, resonant crunch, they instantly violate that expectation. In a fraction of a millisecond, your subconscious mind strips away their modern clothes, their titles, and their civilized persona. It views them as a primitive, unpredictable threat to your immediate space. The modern setting disappears, and your biology reacts as if you are trapped in a tight space with a chaotic element. This creates a massive evolutionary mismatch. 200,000 years ago, if someone next to you was making disgusting, dangerous noises with their food, you had two simple options. You could physically walk away across the open savanna, or you could push them away from the food source. Your body flooded your system with adrenaline and cortisol to prepare you for that exact physical response. The fight or flight mechanism worked perfectly because it was immediately followed by a physical action that relieved the tension. But today, you cannot just sprint out of a corporate boardroom during a lunch meeting because a colleague is chewing loudly. You cannot throw a punch at a family member across the Thanksgiving dinner table. You are forced by modern social etiquette to sit perfectly still, smile politely, and absorb the sound. The adrenaline has nowhere to go. The cortisol builds up in your bloodstream with no physical release. This trapped survival energy is precisely why the emotion feels so incredibly intense, suffocating, and explosive. So the next time you find yourself gripping your fork in silent fury, staring at someone smacking their lips across the room, take a deep breath and look at the bigger picture. You are not a hostile or intolerant person. You are simply a beautifully preserved biological machine running a flawless survival program. Your brain is performing the exact task it was designed to do in the ancient world. It is warning you away from a phantom poison, protecting you from a breakdown in tribal order, and trying its absolute best to keep you alive. The modern world has changed completely, but the ancient code inside your head remains untouched. Tonight, when you hear that intolerable sound and feel that familiar surge of heat rise up into your chest, you can smile secretly to yourself. You are hyper-alert, you are highly protective of your space, and your survival instincts are perfectly intact. Your ancestors would be incredibly proud of your fury. It is the exact same evolutionary anger that ensured you would be here today, sitting at a modern table, safely annoyed by the ancient echoes of the past.